Alison Sargent, who's also here in the studio, for a look at the international front pages today. We're going to start in the US with reactions to Donald Trump's foul-mouthed tirade against immigrants from Haiti, El Salvador, and a number of African nations. He's called them, well, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the word.
That's right, Hexie. That's what many newscasters have actually been asking themselves in the past couple of hours. At France 24, the answer is no. We've decided to play it safe. However, we can say the word S-hole, which comes pretty close to what he did say. If you're curious about how media outlets have been handling it, you can check out this piece from the New York Times. Many U.S. channels like France 24 opted to use asterisks when writing the word, as you can see in this photo that shows NBC last night. The CNN, though, broadcast the word in full, and the Washington Post, which broke the story, they also send out a news alert with the entire word, and pretty much all papers are printing it, although they are avoiding it in the headlines. The New York Times reports that many media executives decided, the news value of the remarks is undeniable, especially in the context of the immigration discussion.
Now, President Trump's remarks have, understandably, sparked a lot of anger across the political spectrum.
That's right. Many from the president's own party have taken a very hard line speaking out against his remarks, including Congress members from Florida. That's a state with a huge Haitian population. The Miami Herald was quick to publish an editorial standing by its citizens. People, the paper says, have only enhanced South Florida since they fled here to escape natural disasters. The paper says it's ironic, actually, that the president made these comments yesterday when today, January 12th, is actually the anniversary of the 2010 earthquake that devastated Haiti. Donald Trump said he wanted to know why people from these S-hole countries come to the U.S. Well, the Miami Herald says it's because their homelands are in despair and because the U.S. used to be a welcoming nation.
And Alison, a lot of papers are also pointing out that this is by no means the first time that Trump has used this sort of language to talk about immigrants.
That's right. He actually launched his campaign that way. You might remember when Donald Trump called Mexicans rapists. Well, what is the driving force behind all of these outbursts? Cartoonist Antel Nays of the Washington Post has given Trump a diagnosis. Take a look at this, Hexie. You'll recognize the infamous hoods of the white supremacist group, the Ku Klux Klan. I guess you could call it KKK tongue. Meanwhile, The Root, a black news website, wonders if these latest comments will be enough for people to finally admit, quote, that Donald Trump is racist. Their resounding response is no, not in a country where KKK tongue is basically the common cold.
It looks pretty painful, I must admit. We do want to move on to other subjects, but first we're going to take a quick peek at the latest cover of Time magazine.
Right, it's been getting a lot of circulation online. This is by the artist Adele Rodriguez. You may recognize his style. He's made somewhat of a name for himself with his depictions of Trump for both Time magazine and German magazine Der Spiegel. This one is inspired not by Trump's latest comments, but by that new book, Fire and Fury, which gives a pretty unflattering look into the Trump White House.
Now, moving over to the United Kingdom, where WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange remains holed up in the embassy of Ecuador, a country where he now is a citizen.
Right, it came out yesterday that Ecuador gave Julian Assange citizenship back in December, and in the days just before the announcement, so earlier this week, Assange tweeted out a little hint, this photo of himself in an Ecuador soccer jersey. Now, a cartoon from the Ecuadorian paper La Hora makes a reference to this tweet. We see here one man is saying to the other, "Did you hear they gave Assange nationality?" And the other one says, "I wonder what team he'll be playing for." And underneath it says, well, according to reports, he'll be playing from the bench, which is, of course, the only option when you're confined to an embassy. Meanwhile, the Times of London is reporting that staff at the embassy are actually quite desperate to find a solution to get Assange out of there for a surprising reason. It turns out he smells bad. The Times cites sources who visited the embassy and said Assange hasn't been washing himself properly. Well, perhaps that's because the Ecuadorian embassy only has one bathroom currently, so that probably makes showering times complicated. According to the Times, though, that's also especially hard for employees who have to share it with Assange.
It could be an attempt for him to get out there himself. Finally, Alison, those who like to believe in life in outer space are finding hope in a series of mysterious radio blasts.
Right, these bright flashes of radio waves have been recorded coming from a distant dwarf galaxy. They're called FRBs, for fast radio bursts. Scientists have been puzzling over their source for the past decade or so. They could be caused by a powerful magnetic field, possibly a black hole. In other words, they're probably not caused by aliens, Space Magazine explains. Still, the mystery continues. Cartoonist Andy Marlett has a theory that I quite like. I wanted to show it to you. You could see someone there is asking a scientist for the source of the radio blasts, and he says simply Bowie. So maybe they're a message from David Bowie, a star.
Very plausible. Alison Sargent with a look at the international papers today. Thank you very much.